Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. No breakthrough in killing of man at St. Bess party. Police have come up empty-handed in their investigations into the killing of a man and the injuring of two others at a party in Cottage Newmarket, St. Elizabeth 2 weeks ago. Preliminary investigation points to lottery scamming being behind the early morning attack. The dead man was identified as Devoru Durant, a 28-year-old farmer from Braes River in the parish. The injured persons are 20 and 28. The commanding officer for the St. Elizabeth Police Division, Superintendent Dwight Daly, said that investigators have not yet made a breakthrough into the case. "We are still conducting our investigations," Superintendent Daly told reporters. "We are asking people with information about this case to come forward." He said anyone with information can contact them at 876-965-2232, 119-311 or the nearest police station. Reports were that about 1:40 a.m., while the party, for which a permit was granted, was in full swing, Durant and another man were inside his vehicle when gunmen approached. Police said the men opened fire, killing Durant and injuring the 20-year-old. The other man who was standing near the car was hit. He was not with Durant and the other man. Brian back in court for Portland rap in June. Alleged rapist and abductor Davian Bryan was remanded Wednesday when he appeared in the Home Circuit Court. The matter was transferred to the Portland Circuit Court for mention on June 8. Bryan was recently arrested and charged after eluding police for 5 months after he allegedly accosted two girls in St. Thomas and was charged with forcible abduction and forcible imprisonment. The charges stem from Bryan's alleged abduction of 9 and 13-year-old girls in Bath St. Thomas in October 2021, which had sparked a manhunt and national outrage. He is to appear before the St. Thomas Parish Court in Yellows on Friday in relation to that matter. Bryan, 32, was listed as Portland's most wanted man in early March after failing to appear before the Portland Circuit Court on February 17 on charges of rape and illegal possession of firearm. Will also answer to new charges of rape, forcible abduction, and grievous sexual assault. The new charges arose from a March 10 incident where a woman was allegedly sexually assaulted. It is being alleged that Bryan abducted the woman while she was walking along a roadway and pulled her into bushes where he assaulted and raped her. He was also charged with wounding with intent in relation to a March 9 incident in which he allegedly grabbed the woman and pulled her into a gully in Durham, Portland. She reportedly sustained injuries to the face. Manchester businessman fined $300,000 for Fisheries breach. 2 years after he was charged for possession of spiny lobster and queen conch during the close season and beyond the declaration period, Manchester businessman Oswald Powell was found guilty and fined $300,000 or spent 6 months in prison. The case arose from an incident in 2020 when inspectors from the National Fisheries Authority (NFA) were conducting routine operations in Alligator Pond, Manchester during the annual lobster close season and visited Oswald's seafood restaurant, which is owned by Powell. A search of his refrigerators was conducted in his presence and spiny lobster tail meat weighed 8.4 pounds along with queen conch meat weighed 7.4 pounds found. The meat was seized and Powell subsequently arrested and charged. He pleaded not guilty but was convicted by Parish Court Judge John Time in the Manchester Parish Court on April 11. The matter was prosecuted by lawyers from the NFA under Fifth. Justice Time pointed out that any person who fails to declare conch and lobster during a close season in keeping with the regulations of the National Fisheries Act of 2018 is automatically guilty of an offense. The penalty is a maximum fine of $3 million or jail time of 2 years. Senior legal officer at the NFA, Nadine Robinson, who led the prosecution team, told reporters that the seizure was made during a routine inspection. She warned that NFA inspectors would continue to conduct random inspections to ensure that restaurants, hotels, cookshops, and other facilities do not have lobster or conch meat in their possession and that they comply with the closed season order. Chief Executive Officer of the NFA, Dr. Gavin Bellamy, told reporters that the agency is facing enforcement challenges in Manchester, particularly in Alligator Pond fishing area. "We are satisfied with the judgment handed down and hope it sends a strong message about the seriousness of the offense, Bellamy said. When persons continue to fish and consume conch and lobster during the close season, they are destroying the fishery because the close season is there to conserve species of fish and reduce fishing pressure during their peak spawning period in order to ensure sustainability. Fishing for lobster is banned from April 1 to June 30. Near missed. Jamanda Kinloch was still in disbelief as she looked Wednesday at the boulder that smashed into her makeshift boardhouse in Kilmarnock, Westmoreland, 2 days earlier, which would have endangered the lives of her 4 young children had the family been home. Even as relatives and neighbors engaged in Thanksgiving at Kingsloch's Fortune, the single mother of 3-year-old twins, as well as a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, stared blankly as she pondered an uncertain future. Much was destroyed: the refrigerator, radio fan, and other possessions. The 25-year-old, who is unemployed, is grateful that no one was home when the mishap occurred sometime after 5 p.m. On Monday evening, I got a call from my mother that a rock stone rolled into my house. I was scared and shocked, and the first thing that came into my mind was to come home. It was heavy rainfall, which caused the rocks to loosen, and I heard a thunder that struck the ground, so everything came down, said Kinloch. And even the window was smashed out, and the door was minted into pieces. But no one was inside the house. Everyone was away at the time, Kinloch explained. Janice Robinson, a neighbor who came to offer assistance at the time, believes that if Kinloch and her children had been home, they might have had injured or killed. When the heavy shower came down, I heard that heavy rumbling, and then the rock came right down, and the sound it was making, when it hit on the house, it was a terrible sound, said Robinson. When you look where the bed is and where the rock lay on the bed foot, none of them would have been saved, as they would have been asleep. It would be pure mourning right now, but God is a good God. But with more rainfall forecast this week, what remains of Kinloch's fragile home could be casualty of another rock slide if heavy showers persist. Daniel Lawrence, Member of Parliament for Westmoreland Eastern, urged Jamaicans to carefully consider the safety of potential building sites for their homes, even as he promised to secure assistance for Kinloch. No one should really consider much more to do something like this, to build a house with so many boulders above the house, said Lawrence. It is really dangerous, and I would not advise anybody anywhere to build a house under such a dangerous situation. But that was not an option for Kinloch, who disclosed that she could not secure a more favorable location than her family-owned property. She has already sought assistance from Food for the Poor to rebuild the house. It was my cousin who gave me this spot, and I was not expecting such a thing to happen. If I received some help, I would build a retaining wall to prevent the rock from coming down, said Kinloch, who has been staying with relatives since the incident. The single mother, whose last job was as a temporary clerical assistant at Kilnarrock Primary School, told reporters that she has mustered assistance from friends and community folk to cobble together the board house sometime in August 2021. Now, she has no funds for a sustainable fresh start. Persons who wish to assist Jamanda Kinloch may contact her at 876-819-5513 or 876-410-1603 or contribute funds to the National Commercial Bank, Black Rivers Branch, account number 674-189-249. Tufton urges continued COVID-19 vigilance. Noting that the coronavirus pandemic was not yet over, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is urging Jamaicans not to become complacent, as the government has the power to reinstitute infection control restrictions should there be drastic increase in COVID-19 cases. On March 17, 2 years after the first COVID-19 case was recorded locally, the nightly curfew introduced to limit the transmission rate was lifted and other restrictions loosened. Last Friday, the mask mandate is enclosed spaces and pre-travel COVID-19 test requirement for visitors were abandoned. On Tuesday, the Health Ministry updated its guidelines for inspection, prevention, and control in health facilities. At the handover ceremony of medical equipment for the COVID-19 response by Pan American Health Organization, World Health Organization, PAHO, WHO, at their offices at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Tufton explained the revision. It is a difficult decision sometimes to determine on what is best public health response in one sense, while being very sensitive to the realities of other public health implications and economic and social implications for some of those whose actions that we take that directly aligned to the best practice as it relates to COVID, Tufton explained. It's not to downplay the importance of the wider society also complying with infection prevention and control, he added. But we do understand the reality of the risk that healthcare workers face and take when someone turns up in an institution, whether coughing or sneezing with other forms of symptoms, and just as we would for any form of infectious disease, require them to wear gloves or wear masks. What we're saying here, in the case of COVID, we have to establish the higher level to protect them so they can protect us. He also defended the government's move to relax the measures. These are real issues that confront us each day, and in a sense, we have to find that balance, so we have taken some steps. The government announced measures up to recently, which have certainly given the impression that we are back to normal as a society, and in a sense, that is our desire, to get back to normal, Tufton said. One should recognize that some of those decisions have to be taken in the context of where we are, where we need to go, and some of the many variables that have to be considered, the minister added, noting that the public health team continues to track the COVID-19 threat. The Prime Minister has said that the length of time that we have embraced and utilized the Disaster Risk Management Act has been unusual for an unusual threat and unusual occurrence, and we should recognize that we have to go away with that. We have to accept that, but we did say that the Public Health Act and the Quarantine Act represent the tool that will always be there to utilize should it be needed in terms of whether a reimposition of or new measures to be imposed around managing the threat that COVID presents, he said. Jamaica received critical medical equipment valued at $40 million to support its COVID-19 response. The donation includes oxygen flow meters, pulse oximeters, medicine and emergency trolleys, adult nebulizer, face mask, digital blood pressure machine, ECG cards to support laboratory diagnosis and case management. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.